happy Monday. Before we get started though, I just want to take a minute because yesterday was a very big day. It was a very special holiday because it was Mother's Day. And so to any and all mothers who are watching, I just want to say thank you. We love you guys so much. We appreciate you. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for your patience, especially because you've basically had to put up with us since mid-March, and that's a lot. It is. So I can't stress that enough. We love you guys. But to all my peeps out there too, though, if you did not get a chance to celebrate your mother yesterday, or maybe you just want to celebrate her again, right? Because she's worth it. Maybe go make her some French toast or take out the trash. Or one of the greatest gifts that you can give her, and one of the greatest gifts on God's green earth, in my opinion, is Chick-fil-A. It is. So maybe go pick her up some Chick-fil-A, pick her up some nuggets and a lemonade, a large sweet tea, right? It is really a way to a woman's heart. So just make sure you love her very well. Love her good this week, right? Because Mother's Day doesn't just have to be a one-day deal. But thank you again, guys. We love you. But we're just going to jump right into what Drew talked about yesterday. And it's a hard topic. I think it's something that we easily can fall into. I know I can personally fall into this very easily, and that is using what we do to determine who we are, or as Drew put it, also what we do can easily become a definition for who we are. And so he used the example of a lot of times when we introduce ourselves, we list off these different things that we're associated with, right, or that we do. And so the first part of it, right, is we say our name. That's a big part of it. But after that, we may say like what school we go to, or if we're associated with any sports, or if we're in maybe band. And all of those things on their own, they're good, right? They're great. And maybe those are things that God has gifted you with. But a lot of times it's super easy to fall into this cycle of going towards those things for security and for validation and for our identity, and ultimately putting those things above God and making them a God in our own lives. And those things can quite easily become a definition, just like Drew says, for who we are and how we identify ourselves. And so we're going to be talking about this a little bit more, but we're going to first read a passage in Deuteronomy. And so Deuteronomy is in the first part of your Bible. It's in the Old Testament. I believe it's the 5th book of the Bible. And I was super excited because I don't normally read a lot in Deuteronomy, but it's a very good passage. So make sure to mark this one down too, if you can. But we're going to be in Deuteronomy 8:11 through 20. So if you have a Bible, you can go ahead and turn there too. But it says, "Take care lest you forget the Lord your God by not keeping his commandments and his rules and his statutes, which I command you today. Lest when you have eaten and are full, and have built good houses and live in them, and when your herds and flocks multiply, and your silver and gold is multiplied, and all that you have is multiplied, then your heart be lifted up, and ye forget the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery, who led you through the great and terrifying wilderness, with its fiery serpents and scorpions, and thirsty ground where there was no water, who brought you water out of the flinty rocks, who fed you in the wilderness with manna that your fathers did not know, that he might humble you and test you, to do you good in the end. Beware, lest you say in your heart, my power and the might of my hand have gotten me this wealth. You shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth, that he may confirm his covenant that he swore to your fathers, as it is this day. And if you forget the Lord your God and go after other gods and serve them and worship them, I solemnly warn you today that you shall surely perish. Like the nations that the Lord makes to perish before you, so shall you perish because you would not obey the voice of the Lord your God." So this is a big chunk of scripture, right? It's a lot to break down, but to give you guys a little bit of context, this is Moses talking. And he's speaking to the Israelites, and this is after God had equipped him to go rescue them from Egypt and to rescue them from Pharaoh. But in this, Moses is reminding them of a truth, and he's warning them, and he's reminding us and warning us. And one of the things that Drew points out, and that Moses says a lot in this passage, is the phrase, lest you forget. And so he's warning us that it's going to be super easy for us to forget where our success and our blessings and our talents come from. And a lot of times it's easy for us to want to credit that power or that success that we may have in life to ourselves, because we long for validation, right? We long for recognition. But then in the end, we need to recognize that it's not through our own power that we're able to have this success and these talents. Everything points back to God, right? It's all through him, and it's all through his power and his glory that we're able to have these talents and have this success in life. And so one of the main points that Drew has is that a temptation in our lives is that the work of our hands will become a god in our life. So he's saying that the work that we do, a lot of times we can put above God. And the work that we have, we can put as something that maybe we strive to find more of our identity in, and more of our purpose in, and more of our security in. And so maybe that maybe like getting A's in school, or getting into a specific college, or having a lot of friends, or dating, or whatever that is for you. But putting those things that we spend so much time trying to become good at, or just things that maybe we find our identity or our purpose in, putting those things above God, but also crediting those successes and those talents to ourselves. In the end, we need to be able to remember and to recognize who ultimately is responsible, and that's God. It's only through him that we're capable to do anything. And that's hard to acknowledge a lot of times, but that's something that we need to continually remember and continually check ourselves on. And so one of the other points that Drew says is that we need to remember that our work is because of God's work. And so any of the talents or any success or any of the blessings we have, it's through God's work, and it's through his mercy and his love for us that we're able to have these things. And that we're able to be good at different things, right? And to succeed in different things. One of the main things that I really like that Drew said is that God does not command us to be successful, but he commands us to be faithful. And so being successful is not a criteria for God, right? He doesn't say you have to be successful. He calls us to be faithful to him, and to strive after his will, and to ultimately recognize that it's him who gives us all these different talents and success. And that when we are faithful and when we strive after him, a lot of times all those blessings and all those different things and all that success is going to follow that, because we are following his will. But when that happens, and when we fully recognize that God is the person who makes this all possible, and that everything points back to him, and he deserves all the glory, that our lives are going to adjust, right? We're going to be so much more happier. We're going to be so much more joyful. There's not going to be as much pressure. And we're going to finally be able to find that purpose and that security and that full identity that God created us for originally in him, and not in these other things that quite frankly don't last. And so one practical takeaway that Drew gives us is that we need to rest from our work. And so maybe that means you just being still and quiet before the Lord, and trying to analyze maybe if there's different things in your life that you are finding your identity and your purpose in, but also fully recognizing that all the talents and all the success and all the blessings that we have that are great, right? They're awesome, but they ultimately come from God and not from us. And we aren't capable of having those things on our own. So I really encourage y'all to take time maybe this week just to be still and quiet, and evaluate maybe different things that you're putting before God in that aspect. But like always, we do have a few questions for you guys to go over in your small group. So maybe you first just start out by reading Deuteronomy 8:11 through 20. But one verse that we specifically want you guys to look at is verse 17. And so after reading that verse, ask yourselves, have you thought this way before? Secondly, how can success be dangerous for us? Why does our success matter so much to us? And all of your work is because of God's work. So when you hear that truth, how does that make you feel? How do you respond to that? What we do doesn't define who we are. So since that's true, what does define who we are? And lastly, what are the things that you are tempted to define yourself by? So go over these questions with your small group and have those discussions. But I really encourage y'all, just take time this week to be still and quiet before the Lord. It's really beneficial, and I think it's a great way for you just to analyze maybe if there's different things in your life that you are putting above them. But we love you guys. We were already halfway through May, right? School's starting to wind down. We're pushing through those finals, but you guys, you got it. We're making it. Summer is inching its way right around the corner. I was outside this afternoon, and it's already starting to hit those like 90-degree weather. So it's getting hot. So we know it's coming, but we love you guys so much. Feel free again to reach out if you need anything. But I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye.